All right, we're recording episode 162, a bucket list moment, I think, for both of us. Ronnie Dunn doing a podcast with us. We grew up listening to you, Ronnie. Can't thank you enough for joining us. I think we're both in agreement.
Yeah.
That this is the most nervous we've ever been to do one of these ever.
Yeah. We've been in the industry for a little bit, and we've met a lot of people, but I feel like a little fanboyish right now.
Yeah.
But it's an honor.
You need to have a cocktail, something for your nerves.
Well,
We're doing it.
Funny you should say that.
Bottoms up, boys.
Cheers. Are you at your place in Tennessee or where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hiding out in I got some land outside Nashville, west of Nashville, and I've been here since March. I won't come out. My wife's mad at me. I won't come into town.
But I mean, that's the perfect place to hide out, right? With what's going on. I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I have one table in the corner that I have song lyrics that I'm working on songs. I don't know what for, but it's just something I think I should do. And then I think I bought every piece of farm equipment you can get so far. I mean, you name a size of a bush hog that and I have it.
Just
chainsaws, we got it all. We started in March clearing land, and I mean I've got another friend out here with me, and we go all day and all night. I mean, we started at 6:30 in the morning and work until 8:30 at night, just freaking out, thinking we were going to die from this COVID thing.
How many acres do you have? You have a massive amount of land, right, out there?
Well, I don't know if it's massive or not. Like it's just 600 acres, and it's on the Turnbull River, which is pretty cool.
Good fishing on there.
A lot of roam and social distance.
Yep.
You doing a lot of fishing and stuff on the river and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's smallmouth out there. It's famous for that. So I'm going every now and then and see if we can snag something, and chase snakes, things like that. I got attacked by a cottonmouth yesterday. I have a witness. Yeah.
Is it
guys are out?
Are those guys? Yeah, that'll mess you up. What's the
guys are out cleaning my land? And there's an old pond down there that I hadn't seen in a long time, so I took my snake boots and walked out there, and sure enough, there was a water moccasin attacked me. He lost.
But you're good. Ooh. That's what we wanted to hear.
He caught the boot. He just caught the boot, or
no? But I squealed like a little girl and jumped into the air and took off running. And finally, I realized that all these big macho guys on heavy equipment were watching me. So I caught myself and took a breath, went back, got a stick, and went at it. It was a battle.
Does Ronnie Dunn have any phobias? Do you have anything that you're fearful of? It sounds like you took care of the snake, but I had to kill a spider on a balcony of my wife the other day. It was like this, or get the spider.
Yeah, but my wife hates spiders too.
I'm surprised at the amount of people that are afraid of spiders.
Me too.
I was born in West Texas in a little town called Coleman, and it was all rattlesnakes out there. Everyone, and scorpions. That was the thing. And to this day, my dad was a cowboy, but he would always take his boots before he put them on and hit the heel on the floor, and then hold them upside down and shake them. And that was to get the scorpions.
Oh man! Yeah.
And the knife would go in your boots. You're a cowboy. Yeah. I don't know.
What's the origin of the tattoo that you have on your forearm? I mean, you just said cowboy now with your dad, but
yeah,
where did that tattoo? What's the backstory on that? The big one you got on your forearm?
Yeah, do you remember the show L.A. Inc. when it was on
TV? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was back when all that was going on, and we were doing our last Brooks and Dunn tour, and someone had the bright idea in the band after a few tequilas one night. To go down and get a tattoo. And I'm thinking, it sounded really good at the time. And we went down, and it's like 9 at night, and had an appointment, called these guys, I said, who's a good guy to do it? Anyway, they told us. You show up, and there's all these big bikers in there, like full of these big guys. And I'm like the skinny country singer, and I'm thinking, I'm going to do it like, cowboy or something here, real subtle. And I started looking around the room, and he did the little the template you put on your arm, and then you look in the mirror and say, that looks okay, and okay, and then it's finally, every time I'd look in the mirror, I'd see those guys looking over at me, going, you skinny wuss. By the time I left, we had cowboy there.
I love that.
So, my dad always called me cowboy. Everything was cowboy. Hey, what's going on, cowboy? That kind of deal. I grew up in that world. I never saw my dad in anything but cowboy boots and a hat and all that. So, he had tattoos, so I got one. But he told me to never get tattoos, but I did. And I waited till later in life. So,
is that your first one?
Was it what?
Was that your first one? Was that your first tattoo, or do you have more?
Yeah, and then Keith Urban saw it, and he said, he said, once you get one, you get addicted, right? That's kind of the thing, and like you'll end up getting them all over the place. Well, Keith did, but I didn't. I'm stuck with one.
That's funny you bring up Keith Urban. We're going to ask you about some of the artists today. With, you did the Reboot album. You worked with a bunch of mainstream country artists from, a huge spectrum of sounds that they put out with their music, kind of brought them into the Brooks and Dunn world. For us, like we mentioned, like you were one, Brooks and Dunn, and you were one of the like voices of our childhood growing up. So like when us getting to talk to you, like we said, is truly surreal, because it's truly something from, I don't know, for me and him, we're like 32-ish years old, and about elementary school, when we started listening to country music through our parents maybe playing it, like it was Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson, George Strait. That was it. Yeah. That was the thing. And then now we're working in it, and we have our opinions about who we like in the mainstream and who we don't. And we're curious, like, who do you gravitate towards? Obviously, I think you guys have a great relationship with and love what Luke Combs does, right? You've done a Luke Combs song that he did, and then you guys, remade one on your end. But when you look at what's going on, who are some of the people that you're kind of proud to say are kind of carrying the country music in the right direction moving forward?
I like Stapleton, because I knew Chris when he was a songwriter, beating the street. And if anybody really paid their dues, he did. And I used to tell him, I said, man, you're a star. You're a star, Chris. And he's all real shy and quiet. It's real humble. And when he first time I met him, I came to a show, and we were back in the arena in the dressing room, which is it's a sports, dressing room, lockers and all that stuff. But he was hanging out way off in the corner by himself. You could hardly get him to talk. And he's still pretty quiet, but he's a lot more sure of himself now. But I like Chris. And Chris is soulful singing, man.
He's the best.
Great singer, really is. And Luke Combs too. Luke too. They're kind of vocally in that same range. In terms of that. So
you cut a couple Chris Stapleton songs. You cut "Heart Letting Go," which was one that was absolutely phenomenal, like such a great song. And then
Chris,
Peace Love It, and Dixie was another one, right? Like, great Chris Stapleton cuts, absolutely.
You should hear Chris's demo.
You post those on the site.
Heart Letting Go. Yeah, and it's I compare, and you can't help but compare yourself to some of them, and it's like there's the downside to being as great a singer as he is, pitching songs to people,
right?
Because you'll literally listen to it and go, I can't do that.
Well,
and I go back and I still do it, and I'll A-B them. There's just Chris's mind, just go with it,
Well, I mean, your voice has always been so unique and so like specific, and like just like one of the best voices in country music that I've ever heard. And then to hear like, oh, Chris Stapleton come on too, it's like, I mean, how does that like, are you kind of like, whose voices are you wowed by other than Chris right now? Because Chris is like kind of in a class of his own these days.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's a slippery slope to step into like contemporary and what's going on now. I go back to like Merle Haggard and go,
Yeah.
holy cow, there's a voice, just smooth. And then I was a little slower warming up to George Jones, but now I listen to him and go, holy cow, he really was as good as they said he was. It's just some of us like I just did that ReDunn record. All right.
Absolutely.
And someone was going, well, let's do a ReDunn too. And they pitched that song to me the other day. Oh, he stopped loving her today.
Yeah.
Oh. No one can ever do that song after George Jones did it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But, and I always wanted that big husky country baritone voice. And I don't have it. It's got a cross between a tenor and, I don't know, an Oklahoma bean. I don't know. No.
But it's got it. When you were starting out, I mean, for me, you have one of the most distinctive voices that I've ever, like, it's just so, that's Ronnie Dunn. You hear it, it's Ronnie Dunn. Did you have any issue when you were young? Because we hear stories now when people are coming up, these days, they try to morph them into something else, or they try to put them into a certain type of sound. With you back in the day, I think you were in Texas growing up, and then you went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of got you to start playing those bars. Like, did you ever have any pressure to try to change anything, or did they just let you say, fuck it, just go with it and do your thing? You can curse on it, by the way.
No, it's like I cut my teeth in the bars. So, and I was, and thank goodness, I say this all the time, I wasn't in Nashville, front and center, because I had to find my voice, which comes down to finding what key works best for you and where you can actually, drive the car the fastest, so to speak. So, right. I can listen to old demo tapes and stuff that are floating around and just go, oh man, I hope that never gets out. But I feel I'm comfortable with it now. I know where to go. It's like I get in the car and I know how to drive it. And I'm still insecure about it. Still insecure. I mean, every time I walk on stage or walk up to a microphone to do recording, I don't know. There's that insecurity that drives you. But I think that's the fire behind every decent artist. The second you start feeling good about yourself, and then take it home.
That's a good point. I feel like a lot of what we get upset with, and the reason why some of the stuff we do works, as far as this content we put out, is like the authenticity element of stuff. And it's like, I think a lot of people today, a lot of the young artists just get too comfortable, too like, they feel good. They get one hit, 2 hits. Oh, okay, cool. That's it. We're good.
Yeah.
Good. They start walking.
Yeah.
It's like for us, it's totally,
it's that's I think that's a result of not having to fight for it maybe as long.
Yeah.
I don't want to be negative about what in any way, because it things culturally change along the way. So right. I did it. It's not the way I expect you to have to do it, but there is a certain humility. I mean, bars will beat you down. I mean, they'll humble you in a heartbeat. And it was a long haul. We weren't able to become like instantaneous online stars or celebrity or success. And I think that it's hard enough to handle as it is, but maintaining humility is really, really important, because like I say, that's the gas in the tank. It's what keeps you going, keeps you pushing forward.
Right.
Sure. I've never sung the perfect show. I've never sung the perfect song, the vocal, I just kid. There's something in my head that won't let me, it's not gonna let me do it, So I keep trying.
That's the key though, chasing something that's, it's nice to hear somebody, as successful as you is saying that. It's like refreshing to hear that.
Well, even like in the 90s, it was like country music really changed in the 90s. Like especially in the live shows. You got Garth Brooks coming on the scene, Shania Twain coming on the scene, you guys coming on the scene. Like, where was it? What was that point like where it turned and you were like, all right, this live show's got to be like electric? Like,
Garth was a catalyst for us, because suddenly we're catching ourselves in arenas, and not playing clubs or big clubs or small arenas. You're in major arenas, and you're having to, like, the night before Aerosmith was there, and you know what their shows look like or would have back in the day. So you're competing with that. So all of a sudden we started going, well, we have to bring in a bunch of semis full of production and beef it up, make the lights. Suddenly the people were expecting it. And it was a risk, because, it's a financial risk. That's a lot of money you're laying out there. You gotta pay for that stuff. And it worked. It worked. And Garth was out there. I think he's the first one that, like, actually brought it up to arena level, and then moved into stadiums. But I don't know that he gets enough credit for that, but he was definitely the guy.
It's funny for us, like, growing up through the 90s, and then back then we weren't paying enough attention. Obviously we didn't have social media and stuff, but like back then you guys would consider like pop country. Even Garth, Shania, now what they consider pop country is so different.
Yeah.
You guys back then are considered as like almost as traditional as it can get, So is that just the wave that you kind of see, like the ebb and flow of like the way the music industry changes in country music year to year, decade to decade? Because you guys have, to this day, it still works. Like the Brooks and Dunn sound. The stuff with Luke Combs is evident of that. Like John Party, like it's
Ashton
that
McBride
90s sound.
Yeah.
It's still, we're still hungry for it. These people.
Well, we were raised in our generation listening to rock, like what is classic rock now, but listening to those bands, and then Merle Haggard, George Jones, Loretta Lynn and stuff, because our parents listened to that,
right?
And that's what we chased and followed when we did country. So yeah, and then the next generation comes on, and music has changed. It's more, culture's changed, and you're listening to different stuff. Hip hop makes its way into the equation along the way. It's just an evolution of what you reference when you're coming up through it. To hear you guys go, okay, we listen to Brooks and Dunn and Garth and the 90s stuff, and it's like, it's weird for me to hear that, right?
Yeah. But we thought it might be. That's why I wanted to kind of bring it up, because it's like, it's a weird moment for us too. To this day, we don't like it we like it almost more now than we did back then.
I will say this: my first recollection as maybe a 3 or 4 year old boy of country music was Boot Scoot and Boogie in 1992. I was probably 3 or 4. Like, that's probably my first. That and Chattahoochee and maybe Achy Breaky Heart are the first 3 songs that I remember ever hearing, and like that's sealed it for me though. Like,
you have that, and you have phases. So
you've had therapy, right? You've had therapy since then?
No.
But honestly, you talk about the changes too in the way you consume music, right? So you mentioned, like we're talking about like social media, internet, the decades changing, and when we were burning CDs illegally back in the day, when everybody started doing it in the early 2000s, the first song, the first album, when I got my license, 2003, I think it was 2003, because the Cubs were in the playoffs and they broke my fucking heart. That's how I always remember when I got my driver's license, when the Cubs lost in 2003 in the NLCS.
Dodgers in the first round, yeah.
No, NLCS, the Bartman.
Oh, yeah.
Bartman.
Or the Marlins.
But when I burned that first CD, the first song, Ain't Nothing About You, was the first song I put on the burnt CD. And then I think second was like Kenny Chesney Young, or one of those songs back in the but it was like, you guys were truly the soundtrack to like high school, childhood, everything. And then I think the really great thing you've done, especially is you've carried that over into today, and it's 2020, and it's still relevant as can be. Like, people still want to listen to this music. And when you bring these newer guys on and gals, they do a great job on your songs that you guys recorded way back then. And these younger fans that maybe didn't listen to you, that are even younger than us, that are in their 20s or whatever, they're thinking, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden you start to hear the mainstream kind of going back to a little bit that more 90s sound. And for us, it's super refreshing to hear that and not these regurgitated, snap tracks and all this stuff. It's like, it's got to be refreshing a little bit if you kind of hear that a little bit, I assume, for you. Yeah.
It is, but it's like music is cyclical. I can remember being back in Tulsa before I moved to Nashville, and this was early 90s, or maybe late 80s, when we were playing in country bands, doing our deal in clubs, and the music coming out of Nashville was so mushy pop to us. It's like really mushy pop. Then all of a sudden he drops out of the sky. It's Randy Travis shows up with this back to this traditional, hardcore country stuff, and people went crazy, So it's cyclical, it is, we listen to music till we get to a point where, I don't know, something else comes along and just drops. Usually comes out of nowhere. It's not planned. It's, no record label for the most part is going to, in the commercial world, is going to just turn around one day and go, okay, this has all been working on the radio. Let's do something completely different. That has to come from the artist, and somehow they have to work their way into mainstream and be accepted.
Chris
I don't know how that happened.
Chris did that really well, where he broke onto the scene, and even Luke Holmes, really broke onto the scene, exploded. But do you still, are you plugged into the Texas red dirt country music scene these days?
I go down to Austin every year and MC the Texas Heritage Songwriters Hall of Fame. I think you get in the middle of it with some of the stuff like Hayes Carley. And then there's Ray Wiley Hubbard from way back, but a really good friend. Jerry Jeff Walker, things like that. But and I'm talking way back, obviously. But yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's just a great attitude those guys have. I love the fact that they're just hell bent on pushing the rules and breaking,
100%,
crashing the system. It's good to keep the system uncomfortable, because if you don't stir up the water and stir up things, it's not going to change. It's going to stay the same,
Well, and I feel like those guys too, a lot of the guys in Texas and girls in Texas, they tour their asses off. They'll play 200 shows a year. They'll play 200 shows a year, and then it's that's where I've always felt, I think we both kind of agree that that's where you build fans these days.
That's it.
Real fans.
That's
real.
It's hands on, man. It's the difference between texting somebody and having a conversation with them.
Yeah. Right.
There's power in that.
Do you see any negative? Obviously there's negatives, but there's also positives with streaming. Obviously, you guys have. It's amazing for people just to be able to listen to Brooks and Dunn or Ronnie Dunn anywhere they want to listen to them with the streaming. But do you miss any elements of how it used to be with how you would release an album versus how today it's release a song? We're fresh. We both have said, I kind of hate this thing of you got an album with 12 songs today, and then it's 5 of those songs get released before the album comes out. As a fan,
that's the formula. That's the formula. It's a business formula that changes. For us, it was you have 10 to 12 songs on a record. You have 3 singles, period. And we go, wait, there's 5 or 6 singles on here. I mean, we pick them all for singles, really. For the most part, and they go, no, that's the cycle now. We have to go. We have to move on. Because it was dictated by a retail cycle. Walmart, who was the largest seller of CDs around in music when we were starting out, used to have a wall of fame, they call it. the whole wall.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I remember that. Holy
remember that? You could,
I
stay there forever. You stayed there forever. All right. Well, then someone made some big complaint, some label guy, and then radio got involved somehow. And then you had a limited amount of time on that wall. And then finally the wall just went away.
I forgot about that wall.
Yeah, the
How
one,
about
the two, the three.
They labeled it and everything.
But that was literally a business formulaic, issue. How that worked. I can remember Charlie Anderson, the owner of Walmart Music. I was flying back from Knoxville with him one day, and he said, "We're losing floor space at 20% a year."
Floor space.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Then he sold it. But still, all that stuff changed. It just when we started, it was cassettes, and then cassettes became. And then CDs came along. They were 50-50. I remember a business office calling, going, "Man, these CD things are like catching on." That's so funny.
They're exploding right now.
These might work.
Yeah. Whoa. And now they're 100 years behind us. So, and then they're streaming now, and it's like. All my traditional, attorneys and business advisors I've always said, don't sell your publishing. This streaming thing is going to catch on, and everybody at first goes, we're not getting paid. Well, and it's minuscule, right, compared to what maybe the royalties for a CD would have been.
CD would be
what it is. As that business model continues to like mature. And people begin to get they're going to get more royalties. It's going to happen. It's never going to happen fast enough, but it's happening. And a strange thing, and I know you're probably aware of this. Don't let me get too far off subject, but with the COVID thing now, we're getting all the information back that with streaming, people are not listening suddenly to as much new music as they are. They're going back to familiarity.
Yep.
Back to more catalog song. And I guess that may be safe to some people. Maybe there's a general psychology that makes that happen right now in ethos. I don't know.
Even country music in general has seen surges in streaming throughout COVID, whereas pop and hip hop and other genres have seen major decreases in streaming. Yeah. And it's
country market and demographic is the slowest to, as you well know, to adapt to that, to what's new technology, and I think now with COVID, people just they've had enough time that it's sort of nothing else to do. They get bored and suddenly they go, I think I'll learn a screen, I think I'll listen to Spotify, and here we go. And the numbers are showing that.
Yeah.
I think they've just had time to go, I'm going to learn to string.
Yeah.
I want to listen to music. I don't want to listen to radio maybe 24 hours a day. I think I'll just learn to string. I hope. It's happening. The numbers are showing it.
It happens for us.
We
go back to Ronnie Dunn and Riff Dunn all the time. And you just cut out there for a second.
I said, don't you wish we'd all bought stock in Zoom?
Right. Absolutely. Was there anyone from let's get to the ReDunn record. The ReDunn record was really cool. All covers. Was there any song on that where you were like, I don't want to quite tackle that, but I'm going to do it anyway? Like you're a little hesitant, or you kind of thought like,
Yeah, a lot of them. A lot. You're taking on when
George Strait.
Yeah. But they're classic. Those are classic songs. They're embedded in people's minds as songs. You really have to tread lightly when you step into that arena. How long? I mean, I've always loved it, and still do, obviously. But one of the players, when we were cutting a song, we all would come in and gather around the board, and it was. He said, that song's like 40-something years old. We were all like, what? What? Some people have been listening to that. Paul Carrick sing that song with Ace for 40 years. Tom Petty, I started out like trying to cop his whole thing. you know.
Oh, really?
And I had to step back and go, no, you're not Tom Petty. Just
Yeah.
sing it like you can as best you can, and sell it like that. And we were literally trying to honky tonk country-fy those songs.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And just to see what would happen as an experiment. It was fun. We had a blast doing it. A lot of fun.
It's a great album. I had a quick question going back to when you guys were blowing up in the 90s. We were looking at some of your music videos. I felt like your music videos were just completely insanely like just
fun,
fun,
crazy.
but crazy. Just I feel like you guys definitely led the charge a little bit to making music videos a lot more entertaining. And
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. We looked, I don't know how many songs we looked at, like 15, 20
yeah.
songs. We just wanted to get a quick recap of everything from early 90s all the way through the early to mid 2000s. And I mean, did you guys have a lot of say into that back then? Or was it just kind of like, okay, here's our song, and then you guys kind of let somebody kind of do it because that shit was fun to watch?
We got treatments, you know, from different video producers, and they'd line up sometimes 10 at a time, you know, and you go, oh, well, you know, you have to take into account, you know, who it is and what they're saying, how they're going about it. And we would, and I look back at some of my missing friends these days, but that's just, you know, it's what it is. You know, I mean, and there were songs. There were songs that we actually literally were encouraged to do videos on that we wouldn't do. You know, it's just like, no. I'm glad I didn't do one on Neon Moon.
Yeah.
You know, then it starts the imagination. You know,
I think the funniest, which one? Oh, Rock My World. That was that
wasn't me.
Come on. I know, but come on. You gotta watch that and laugh a little bit. Like there's a scene where your aviators are on, and the blonde girl in convertible drives by, and she your aviators.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the first times that we would use special effects, and it was one of Kix's buddies that we'd gone to school with. Yeah, that was some homegrown stuff.
That's amazing though to see that. Like also that it's available on YouTube for us to watch today. It's kind of for us. I mean, it makes me so happy to be able to watch it. Yeah. Even if we were going to talk to you, if we were just sitting around on a Friday, we're going to head out of the office and have a couple of drinks. We might throw something like that on and just like enjoy it. So it's just like a super entertaining thing for us to kind of. Because honestly, back then, when we were a kid back then, I don't remember really watching country music on TV. I remember more listening to it.
Yeah. There wasn't
like a video thing. I don't even know if we had cable. Like
MTV, the MTV culture of the late 80s, early 90s didn't really get country music.
Right, yeah.
Until later.
The video thing, like now, like a Chattahoochee music video for Alan Jackson, that became so cool 35 years later. Oh, that video or 30 years later, oh, that's such a funny, awesome video. Back then, it was probably, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just another...
No, that was big stuff. You know, it was classic, and usually, it's funny and just crowd psyche. The video was usually, if the song was a big hit, the video is a big hit too. You know, I don't know which one. You know,
and now it's almost an afterthought, right? Like the video, a lot of times is an afterthought. It's just like, oh, I guess I should do one, but.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like if you accurately nail a song with a video concept, you know, that run parallel, then that's a hit, you know. Whereas if you come with some video that runs off the road, you know, compared to the soundtrack and the song, you know, not so much.
I think we mentioned Stapleton earlier with, was it Fire Away? Was the mental, like the Fire Away video is all about like a suicide and mental awareness. It's super powerful. So sometimes you can kind of fit a narrative into or a story into a.
Morgan Wallen covered Jason Isbell's "Cover Me Up" with PTSD, and it's like you can use videos to
get a point across.
Yeah, like do something important, and powerful. But.
And then, you know, like Garth tried it with Thunder Rolls. It was a big, you know,
domestic violence
at the time, you know. So yeah, you can try.
Do you hang out on Instagram and Twitter? You have a good Instagram. I enjoy watching. Are you doing some of it, or is your team doing some of it? You seem to enjoy. paying
I'm
attention.
involved with it, but Braden Carney does my stuff. He was with
Braden's good at it.
yeah, Braden's great. He's a ninja. He really is. I'm doing everything I can to hang on to him. He hits me up with a raise like every 30 days. One money. So far I'm able to kind of keep up with it because he's pacing himself right. But he's a cat.
Photography. Can you talk about that a little bit? Just like some of the photography stuff that you do?
Yeah, I got into it years ago and started playing around with, cameras. And I had a house in Santa Fe. It just had the most unbelievable sunsets. They were surreal. So I went up there and practiced, and I learned how to do lighting and, everything pretty much there is to know about the technical end of it. And then
Aperture,
a few years ago,
shutter speed, all that.
yeah, all that. Oh yeah, definitely all that. So a buddy who had actually shot an album cover for us years ago, but he's a staff photographer for Sports Illustrated magazine. 27 years. And I had just been to Cuba. I'd sailed to Cuba with some buddies, and we went out there and just went crazy with cameras. Took pictures of everything they said not to, So I was showing him the shots and stuff, and he went, "Dude, just let's start traveling and shooting like good photograph stuff and have fun." He says, "You got it." And away we went. We went to Galapagos and Ecuador, and we've been to Alaska to shoot bears. And when I say shoot, someone always thinks I'm saying shoot, but I mean photograph.
Yeah, photograph.
You got to be politically correct for that, or you'll offend someone out there. But so yeah. Love it. It's a great pastime. I'm playing there. I'll take the desert and grab my bus and go to Zion or Death Valley and shoot, just to keep from hanging out in a hotel in Vegas.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wait, Red Dirt Road we had to bring up because Red Dirt Road we tweeted about so many times, just a lyric or whatever from it. Wes and I were talking before we jumped on about our high school phase, right around the time we got our driver's license, which was like freshman year of high school. We had a lot of people our age had that weird phase, maybe 14 to 16 years old, where we listened to a lot of 50 Cent and Nelly and Eminem.
Hip hop.
So we just had one like 3-year stretch where it was like, I'm done for now with listening to like John Michael Montgomery and whoever. And I'm gonna switch over a little bit to hip hop, and then we came back, and for you said it was.
For me, Red Dirt Road was the song that brought me, like, not that I say brought me back, but it was like made me come back to this place where I was like, man, country music is fucking awesome. Like, and I grew up in a small farm town. Like, I always liked country music, but like Red Dirt Road to me was that one song that was like a turning point in my life like I said, Boot Scoot and Boogie, one of the first songs I ever heard, 1992, maybe 3-4 years old. And then Red Dirt Road, another one that like turned the corner for me. Like, how big of a song was that for you guys? And like,
Boot Scoot was written for 4-year-olds. That was my target market. You know that, right? And then Red Dirt Road was written to bring all the prodigal sons back and daughters.
There we go.
Church.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's what you just said, right?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much true. Like it was prodigal, man. I had to come back.
Yeah, come back.
It was a powerful song because it, as much as it sounds 100% like Brooks and Dunn, 100% like the stuff you guys always did in the best way, it had an element to it for me to this day that's like, it was a little fresh for the time, I think. It kind of was different enough where I think if somebody released that song today, if we never heard that song, but it came out today, it'd be a #1 song, in my opinion, because of how it's changed back to that thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, for me, one of the most relatable songs imaginable, talking about like
where you grew up.
Yeah, just everything is just that. I think for us, the frustration a lot of times becomes overdone. This relatability factor of, oh, well, I drink beer on a boat, I sit at a bonfire, I do this. But you guys made it into a tempo that was not.
That was probably the most authentic personal song that I had been a part of writing.
Wow.
I grew up, off Rural Route 3, and where my grandparents were down in South Arkansas at the time, of all the places I lived. And it was about a dirt road that led from my Rural Route 3. 5 miles down, it was a dirt road. You turn left on, and you go like 3 miles back down to their house, and it dead ended, and at their farm.
Yeah.
And man, that's where we all gathered and just got, we did all that stuff. Wrecked the car, crashed into a tree, drank beer first time, all that stuff. We stayed in trouble out there, and survived it somehow. But that was one that worked. And then all the elements just came together in the studio. I remember it was Kenny Greenberg just sat down and started hitting that lick at the beginning. We played it on the acoustic guitar to him. No discussion other than, okay, let's go record it, see what happens. And he just hits the lick. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, oh, and away it goes. So it has like classic rock elements, country lyrics
and stuff, and guitars. Yeah,
it's kind of how we all grew up in a way, and still do, so far.
Man, it's like one of those few songs for me in country music I will never ever get sick of.
Yeah,
never.
Absolutely, never.
And thank you for never selling your soul to the devil and like changing your sound to be some doofus or anything like that. Like, I mean, Ronnie Dunn is just quintessential like country music for me. So for me,
absolutely,
we can't thank you enough for joining us. Is there anything that you're planning? You said you were writing a little bit before we let you go. Is there anything that's coming up on the horizon, or you're thinking about doing?
What's in the future? What do you got going on?
I'm working on putting together a hardcore '90s record.
No way.
Scott Borchetta over at Big Machine now.
Woo!
And,
Woo!
Yeah.
Just you, or is it? Or
it's just me.
Just
me.
That's amazing.
I may pay Kix $100 and see if he comes sing a part or two.
You got anyone else coming in? Maybe
just to trash up a track.
Any duets or anything, or is it just you?
Any duets coming in, or any ideas, or just in the preliminary stages right now?
No, I'm well into it. I've got songs written that they feel like B&D stuff, and it's that the whole B&D thing. Sometimes I'd write one, Kix would write one, we'd write them together, we'd write them with other people and stuff. That's how we did it.
Was there anyone, real quick before we got here, was there anyone on the Reboot album where you were like really surprised that came in and you were like, damn, like they murdered it? Like they crushed the vocal that you had them come in for,
or you liked what they changed, or like whatever.
Okay, I really liked Neon Man.
Yeah, with Casey.
And,
me too. I actually love that. Yeah,
she did a great job on that, and because Dan Huff, the producer, was really trying to hold the traditional kind of sound as much as he could, but like still make it different. But Cody, God dang, Cody Johnson.
Oh, we love him, dude.
Yeah, huge fan.
Yeah, that's another voice we need.
That guy live.
Yeah.
You want to talk about like a live performance? Almost nobody can touch him live.
Yeah. There's a song he has called Monday Morning Merle.
Yeah, Monday Morning.
Yeah, I just keep it on my playlist. That and then Party, She Ain't In It, that kind of stuff.
Oh, She Ain't In It.
Dude.
How is that not a number one song?
Right? That has to piss you off a little bit as Ronnie Dunn. When you hear some of these songs that don't do as well as, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there's certain songs that don't do well that's got to kind of grind at your gears a little bit, right?
Miranda Lambert, Tin Man.
Miranda Lambert.
Tin Man, that was one where I was like, how did that not be?
I asked Miranda the other day, I said, what's your favorite song that you've written? And she said, Airstream. I went back and listened to it again, and it's killer. You know,
Yeah.
I got this text from her the other night, and she said, I'm sitting here listening to your music, and and you're right here in the room with me, and you don't even know it, you know. And she goes, let's write the next record. And I'm glad. You must be drinking, Miranda. You're obviously a couple of cocktails in. But
Amazing.
anyway, it's a cool song. I love it. Every now and then they hit. But those songs, like you say, we used to say, and still do, the career songs are not always the big #1 hits.
Nope. Right. Nope.
Believe was like a big, you know, you're doing this and stuff. It was a big boost, and we had to fight it to get it in the top 5.
I remember being a freshman in college, listening to that, going into my dorm, sharing it to all my buddies who are, you know, they're from different walks of life. You know, nobody's country folks, and we went to college in Chicago, downtown Chicago, and
nobody liked country except
nobody liked country music. And I was like, hey, you got to hear the song "Believe" by Brooks and Dunn, and just like going to church, like
you got to do it.
Oh, man, such a great song.
You guys had music that converted people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That didn't like country.
Absolutely.
Tons of songs where it's hard work and like so many songs that you had throughout the decades.
Hillbilly Deluxe was
Hillbilly Deluxe.
So many of my friends like that song that never liked country.
We would go to a Cubs game in Wrigleyville here down the street, and you go to the bar before the Cubs game. It's a country bar. There used to be only one country bar right on the Clark Street leading up to Wrigley Field. Yeah. All the time, you know you're going to hear Brooks and Dunn. And you know when you hear Brooks and Dunn, people are going to get excited. People are going to start drinking. People are going to get excited to do the next thing. And it's just like the music just lives on. And it's just a thing. So it's like we can't thank you enough for doing this. For us, honestly, like a bucket list moment. I don't know.
Absolutely, bucket list moment.
And we have to, when this coronavirus thing, hopefully when we figure it out a little bit better, we would love to come down and hang out and go to Tennessee and
come
do
to the
some
barn.
Yeah.
Come on, anytime, bring it.
This guy right here plays a little guitar, so maybe he can.
Might be fun.
Honestly, maybe we write a song. Who knows?
Let's write something and sing on Zoom and you know.
Drink a little tequila, get another tattoo.
Yeah. Drink a lot of tequila, maybe.
A lot of tequila.
Ronnie, yeah.
I love it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Really, really cool. I love this.
Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for coming.
We do love you.
Like,
honestly,
we
do love you.
I love you back, man.
Have a great and safe weekend, and you know, have a great summer too. Hopefully, we talk soon.
Do the same, guys. Everybody, keep your head down. Stay healthy.
Cheers.
See you, man.
See you.